shy away from it because they can't, you know, they don't fit in with the kids getting the grade for the sitting and memorizing. So they end up not writing anymore rather than writing in their own style or figuring it out, which is a lot of what I do with my nonprofit stuff. Is they offer that alternative viewpoint.
So it's cool like seeing that the mind and the creativeness of a 14-year-old and like the weirdness of still being a child and wanting to horseplay and jump around and push each other and be very touchy-feely as young men without the weirdness of like sexuality at all. And then also like they're young men and people behave like that towards them and expect adult behavior out of people that are physiologically not adults, but also they aren't kids, and a couple of them are as big as me. Most are still small, like eighth and ninth grade, they're still pretty small. And the young women, they run the show. It's actually really interesting to see like the 5 or 6 women all grouped together there. I don't believe any of the groups are co-ed, now that I think about it. And the ones who pick the project first and are most advanced and most close to completed and comfortable presenting their work are the 5 women that are in the group together. So it's been, some interesting things to learn. But Black land ownership. All right. What do we want to go through first out of our list? Do we want to do Memphis talk since we have you here, Paulie?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So for folks who were here last week and the week before, I had spoken a bit about our Memphis project, and basically I found a plot maybe 3 weeks ago that was $5,000. It's in South Memphis, and South Memphis has like a history of music with Stax Records, and there's a Stax Music Museum and Education Center. Isaac Hayes was on Stax Records, a number of other well-known but not necessarily like celebrated soul and R&B artists. And Memphis itself has an amazing like music history, has an amazing political and civil rights history, and has had a pretty large population of Black folks for a fairly long amount of time. So with Black land ownership, we tend to be in rural areas. The properties in urban areas tend to be too expensive. There are regulations, and we're not there. And so figuring out how it could all come together, we were thinking Syracuse, but we try to do an outdoor garden in Syracuse. How many months of the year can we really grow? And I've been trying to find a way for Black land ownership to have a organic involvement with Black community more than we currently do. There wasn't a single part of me that was going to say we only will work with Black folks. So when we went up to Central New York and our community is 98% not Black, I feel totally comfortable working with as many people there that are like-minded as to how to steward land, be non-exploitative, and work with community. But there are issues that are important to me that it's not their community. And so finding a community that we can work with and maybe find some Black churches to work with, find other organizations that have been doing the work prior to us, it probably requires us being in a community where Black folks have had history, have had roots. And so Memphis really opens up a pretty sweet door. In part of how I view what we're doing, it's obstructive. So we bought 10 acres of wetlands in Mississippi so that petrochemical companies can't buy up that wetlands. We can't use it, but it's obstructive in a certain way, which hopefully the birds and Melissa, would you say they have blue herons?
Oh yeah, lots of blue herons. And um I can't remember the names of all the other species, but there's some other kind of like pipers, but they're not quite in the extinction list or endangered yet, but they're close. So that
Like
area
the
is helping to support um a lot of ecosystem that could potentially be in harm's way.
right, and so there's
And
the
we just got another email from folks out there to collaborate a response, so that's good.
oh yeah, and so there's that obstructive element, and then there's the activity element and engagement. And with Memphis, when I contacted the real estate agent about the property we saw, she was like, she's into gardens. I could tell speaking on the phone, or it sounded like she was a Black person. When said we did with Black land ownership, very supportive of it. She was like, hey, you got to talk to my friend who works for Economic Development Org. I speak to the friend. The friend emails me a list of orgs down there that do urban farming and do community gardens and things of that nature. Some of the people who have figured out how to manage the water issue down there because on a lot of the vacant lots, when the house is demolished after it's been condemned, they pull up the water lines and they pull up all of the utility stuff. So you actually can't just start a garden. You normally have to spend $10,000 to put in water. So we're, got some really good information about what we'd have to do on the ground, and then found out the person selling the property, although it was listed at 5,000, and we would have to pay like 700 for the title insurance. He wanted 5,000, I think net. I don't remember gross net, but basically at the end of the entire deal, he wanted to leave with 5,000, and in order to do that, he would actually need me to pay 7,300. Uh, and then I'd still have to cover title insurance. And for me, it didn't make sense for what we were going to do. So I was kind of bummed out. But then the young lady sent me like 8 or 10 other listings. Melissa's seen some of them, and one or two are pretty interesting. They're still close to the Stax Museum. I found one that's across the street from a college that if we did a garden, well, then how many hundreds of people are right across the street? And what other kind of relationships could we build? Then some are in residential neighborhoods. So I think we're still interested in pursuing Memphis. I want to try to keep the cost at 5,000 or below. The goal would be to partner with probably one or two other people. The plans would be eventually community garden. What I've learned, or what the young lady told me, was like there's a high level of arsenic in the soil just in general in that area of Tennessee. If there's been a shed or if there's a building on the property, then there may be other heavy metals in the soil. So we may need to take a few months, like 6 months to a year, to actually do soil reclamation. So during that time, we are thinking, Melissa and I had talked about a mulch space garden. You don't have to tend to that. You can use the debris from any of the fallen trees. We can then chip them up. We can clear up some of the other vacant properties and try to tidy them up, but then use the mulch and use the fallen vegetation and the branches from those properties as part of our mulch bed, and then start the garden, 6 months to a year after. If two or three of us go up on it, then that's like probably 1,700 a person or group of people who go up on it. My end goal would be if we spend 5,000 or 6,000 up front, we raise money over the next 6 months to a year to cover all those capital costs, then do a specific campaign to do the infrastructure for that lot, whether it's, all right, to do the mulch garden, we need this few tools, we need this to bring in water, we don't, we can connect from across the street, whatever we do. And then hopefully, if we can grow stuff there, work out a plan to where the community at a certain point takes it over. And folks are able to either buy it from us, we do a work rent to own with people locally, or folks don't want to steward the land but want to operate like a community garden and sell produce or start a business from that lot, then they could, and they would keep the proceeds of their business, and we would just retain ownership of the lot and not charge them rent. We could
And
partner with a
we
local
also,
church. Go ahead, Melissa.
oh, I was going to say we also discussed, because water can be an issue, working with some different groups, and we've met a couple of them too, or coming up with something for water reclamation in that particular space so that that could actually support the community as well. Um, yeah.
And this taps in Tyler and Nick, if you want to jump in here. We've been trying to figure out with homesteading or people who've decided to go off grid how we can implement best practices. So if we have a lot that is in an urban area, you're not off grid, but you can't get water, how can we do water containment, capture, and things like that? So Tyler and Nick, have you come across any kind of designs or things that you've seen in the off-grid world that could be applied to an urban scenario, or are there any things that we should check out at some point?
That's an interesting question. Things that are off-grid that could be applied to an urban scenario. I mean, the answer that jumps to my mind as a technologist is mesh networks for digital communication. I don't know that that is probably like, it, it's an interesting use case, but it's not as maybe as like material or tangible as something like uh, setting up a housing situation or setting up a water system or something like that. But mesh networks, exist in New York City as a possible like internet service provider, but also a way in off-grid situations to set up communication networks that don't depend on AT&T.
Would it be possible on a vacant lot to set up, let's say you could secure it, this is imaginary world, a box that then sends out free internet for a certain number of, square meters around that block or something like that?
So that is possible. So there are two ways to think about it. One is that you can basically so with a mesh network, it's like you have internal communication within the network, and then you have a connection point if you want between that network and the broader internet that then you can propagate to the network. So a simple model that doesn't involve the broader internet would be like, here's 100 PDFs that are available to anyone who connects to my network. And you could just do that, and you could just set up that thing, and whoever Wi-Fi is in or whatever. Um, or you could, then try to link that up to the larger internet, but it's going to be a little bit more of an infrastructural project.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Tyler, did you have any thoughts? Nope. Okay. Okay. Did we have any questions about Memphis or thoughts or things we could possibly do if we're able to get this property down there?
When are you going? When would you be going?
Like to visit before we buy it?
Oh, I thought you were going to do stuff on it. Are you personally going to go there and do things?
See,
That's
this
what I
is
was
a
wondering.
good question. These are the things. I want to figure out a way to do as many things as possible where I don't have to be there until DC gets settled. Like this stuff in my mom's house is not going to be settled in the next 3 months. Upstate, we just ripped up the bathroom. Upstate's not going to be settled in the next 3 to 6 months. So I like the idea of getting the space when it's available, and so like I have a job for the next 3 months. So I fear waiting 6 months to a year to having more of like a plan, and tend to be more like, all right, if it's possible to do it, might do it now. And then the universe will force me into figuring out how to get down to Memphis. And it'll force me into meeting people to collaborate with. It will force me into developing a plan to make it all make sense. Um, I don't foresee spending much time in Memphis. Like that's a 3 hour flight, a 14-hour drive or something from DC. We're still trying, upstate a lot. So I'd like to partner with people down there. I'd really like to figure out a schematic so that we can purchase land or space in communities where it wouldn't normally be financially viable, take care of the hard parts like clearing the property, figuring out the infrastructure, do whatever beautifying we can with community, and then have community really work with the space and utilize it in a way that's important to them. So that would mean us going back and forth a few times, most likely, or like going for little chunks of time. But I wouldn't like all of a sudden be down there a quarter of the year or something like that. I don't see that.
Okay.
And I also think it's interesting. I was curious what people think about, with some of these properties, they offer, you know, the possibility of community think in terms of some of these more natural spaces. And so something like the water reclamation situation where we know that in Memphis that is an issue and that can halt progress when it comes to community gardens, and it is an urban space. And so bringing community, I'm curious what people think about like creating little and Chris and I haven't said that this is what we're going to do. I'm just curious, like creating small movements around bringing folks together to, figure out how to solve some of those problems in these spaces and to shift some of the dynamics in community, whether it be around water or whatnot, not as like, the sole purpose of the project, but as another way to engage people in the ways in which land ownership can also give us the opportunities to innovate. I know in the future, one of our kind of discussions and hefty long-term projects is the idea of having an innovation space in nature for, um, marginalized communities, specifically Black communities, to be able to come together and experiment, and create things. And so I'm just curious what people think about that part of these projects, if that makes sense as a question.
I mean, I like it. The one thing we always try to do with our nonprofit is to get it where we're not the ones coming in and doing all the painting, but inspiring the people locally to give them the knowledge and the belief that they can do it. That's a lot of big thing about certain areas. Everyone just thinks there's no chance. Yeah, if you think that way, then there is no chance. But I like that idea of the like shareable PDF if you connect, because then you could have like how to PDFs on how to grow certain things, how to build this, how to clean your water, how to, things that can help everyone in the community by offering that kind of free information, which is so vital. Information is so powerful.
Yo, you, Paulie, between you, Nick, and Melissa, y'all just got me so hyped in this idea of community knowledge share and ancestor knowledge share of people who, whether it's recipes, because I'm honest, I don't think I've been reading John Baudrillard again, and the similacra. It's like it's too much right now. The death of the real. Anyway, but things as simple as, do we know how to prepare our own food? Are we domesticating ourselves to the point to where we really have to go get prepackaged everything? And whose fault will it be if no one knows how to make anything? Like if we don't help preserve the thing, we're part of the conduit. And so with that mesh network, Nick, I was thinking like, well, what would an actual use be? Like my initial thought was more pragmatic and could you automate or use that mesh network to manage the garden in certain ways or track the temperature, the humidity levels, the rain levels, so that we're very efficient in the use of whatever's happening on the property or what have you, and set up sensors and all this other stuff. But now that I'm thinking of like the people connected, how that could be a benefit to folks in a local community that have been self-reliant for a fair amount of time and have probably developed skill sets and understandings that are now getting siloed, but that could be shared. And through kind of this, the vehicle of the community garden space or something like that. Does that make sense at all?
Mm-hmm. And
But yeah, you could also have it be like, it could be giving information on grants, on the right tax stuff to be doing, how to set up things for your kids, like once you're sharing information, like it's endless where you could be like relaying to people from a trustworthy source. They're not having to go online, but they're getting it all from one communal space where everyone's getting the same information, which will help growth.
Dope.
and I think it also brings us, for me, that's of interest in the sense that when we started Black land ownership, one of the realities that we talked a lot about was how few like if there's not models for some of these community endeavors that aren't coming from, you know, they're just outside, like just not the typical. Like, where do you get to see, even when it comes to models of land ownership, how often are you seeing some of these more community-based innovative spaces or ways of thinking around land? We're seeing it in certain small pockets, but it's not vast, and especially when it comes to nature-based technologies or nature-based um, creations, like where is the model for that? So I think it definitely excites me because it brings me back to one of the reasons why we started this.
Any thoughts for arts or education things we could do with that property or other orgs we could partner with besides churches and other community gardens?
Any like recreational clubs and stuff, you could set up like field days where there's, friendly competitions, or boys and girls clubs where they bring them to learn about gardening. Or, there's like a ton of also like local but national orgs, this organization, but I'm sure there's a ton.
Lex, you were going to say something?
I was gonna just say like basically what I'm doing, if there are schools, preschools, nursery school kind of things.
Oh, wait, like an outdoor school, but on a
Yeah, or
but
even
this
just
could be
schools
a
that
bit
would are close enough. I don't know. I don't know where the property would be. I don't know.
interesting.
I
So
think that's also great.
if we could
Yeah, I mean, it could be any age, obviously, but yeah, just thinking my kids.
so all right, good. I'm glad we're recording this. If there are people homeschooling in the area, if there are preschools or youth like small, because one of the things is with the areas of town we're in, I don't want to overestimate or underestimate safety. And part of the thing I like is if we can pull this off in one of the lots and raise the money within the first 3 to 6 months, why not start buying more of it and basically be part of instead of in Baltimore and Detroit, where the land banks buy the lots and then say you can buy them for $1, but you have to have $100,000 in the bank to prove that you can develop them. The lots just end up empty because if you have $100,000 in the bank already, that means you can get a $600,000 house. You're not about to develop like a street in Baltimore or in Detroit. So this could be a way of, if it works, that we can really start occupying some of the what's so-called vacant space. And when there's people in the space, you end up with less of the activities out in the cut that make things not so safe. And having kids run around and adults with their kids definitely deter Mr. Dope Man and all their fun friends. Any other thoughts on Memphis, or should we move on?
Well, just another, what I'm really excited about Memphis as a project as well is, originally we had a conversation about having small projects like these across all 50 states. And it's fun to think of, since we've been working in more rural spaces and kind of in more conservation mechanisms, it'll be interesting to see the different possibilities that actually being able to work with community builds for the land and for the possibility of more lands in city spaces that uplift community innovation and endeavors. So I'm excited about it.
I am too. I love the idea, and I love the idea of as soon as it's paid off, expanding past that. That's really going to be the move. Is just to keep growing it as quickly as possible. Because with the size comes the power that it'll bring toward community change. And, the more land you own, the more voice you have. So.
And it also offers a lot of possibility and just connectivity, like we discussed with the kind of small cohort we have in Black land ownership of alternative land projects that we're kind of working further with this year. It creates a possibility of having community land projects, like true community land projects in urban spaces where those different communities can network with one another in order to see what they're doing with these, learn from each other. So it's cool. Whether it's education, gardens, um, water reclamation, memorial projects, like there's lots of possibilities there. And then partnering with churches and museums and folks who will get to kind of highlight it and spotlight it. So it's neat.
Oh, I thought I saw one more hand up.
I think Kirsten had something here.
I was just gonna say what you guys ended up doing, which was just to celebrate. Good for you. Exciting.
Dope, dope, dope. Any other ideas about Memphis? So,
Yeah, B over here. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking okay, I'm gonna try not to be long-winded. One of my favorite artists the Astor Gates, what he did to buy up property around Chicago was that he invested in one property, but he would sell it off. Like, he invested in a bank that was being demolished, but he sold off pieces of marble as an NFT certificate. And basically he raised for $5,000 a pop, he raised enough to buy other properties around in Chicago, around a certain area. And that he's an urban planner as well as an artist. So I was thinking of urban planning tactics to fund buying the land.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
That makes a lot of sense. And Chris has been sort of integrating in that world with, um, forget the name of that the organization where you spoke at the equity conference with the zoning. folks.
Smart City. Oh, no. I have to look it up, but it was the Equity
Yeah.
Summit.
Yeah, and they definitely are interested in those types of projects, seemingly. So it would be interesting to see the connections there too. That makes a lot of sense, Nicole.
Smart Growth America is the name of the org. And I may be speaking at a conference they're putting together this fall about zoning. I spoke on a panel earlier this year that dealt with how art could be used in neighborhood change and advocating for zoning changes. And it was a weird conversation because there was a bunch of business people being like, how can we use the arts to get our message out? And I was like, y'all are going to use artists, but we never have a place to live after y'all grow and do all your business. So instead of thinking, how do we use art? Why don't we think of what can we do to make sure artists have a place to live and make art as developers? And it wasn't hostile, but it also wasn't me being like, here's how you co-op culture. And but the woman was really supportive, who Takara, who ran the event, and was like, I appreciate your input. Do you think you could do like an art piece though that relates to zoning? And I was kind of like, no, in my mind, like I don't like kind of how businesses get rappers to do corny songs to promote their message and don't support the community. But then I was talking to my homie Flex, and he gave me a really good idea about how we could do a song. And I hit her up, and she was like, "If you can put that together and then workshop with us and like how other things like that could be made, we can probably, have a small budget to do that." And so I think with the zoning folks, we're going to be able to continue our relationship. I think it'll deepen, and so it is something to consider, Nicole. And we need ideas like that are tangible. I was we had a meeting with Nick earlier and with Tyler, and when it came to how we actually generate revenue outside of your traditional methods of you buy land cheap, sell it higher than it was, well, that usually means to make money, you target people that are desperate. Either someone died, there's a divorce, or something went wrong, and you can get their property really cheap. And then you sell it to people that have no knowledge of what they're doing and overpay for a property. That's not really acceptable for us as a business model. But having something tangible, like you mentioned, Nicole, where people know that there's something being purchased, there's something physical being exchanged, and that actual profit from that allows us to do what we need to do, then we don't have to be reliant on grants. We don't have to be reliant on institutions. We don't have to solely rely on the generosity of our friends and family to continue contributing. I think that that's a major area where we need, where I need creative help for sure.
I mean, I'm down. Like, I'm down for whatever because there's so many ideas that could pop up from this. And there's so many opportunities that I've come across just that come out of urban planning alone, like found art. Like we can turn we can we can turn spaces and flip them into pop-up art studios, or we can turn them into pop-up galleries, like, and there's money for that as well. One of the spaces that started out that way, and now they have a fixture gallery space in Jersey, was Project No Empty Space. They used to be across the street where they had a cafe across the street from my apartment building 10, 15 years ago. And they started out as a pop-up. And they ended up landing in Jersey. But the point I'm trying to make is there is a lot of potential that comes out of urban planning and that empowers people to significantly invest in the spaces that they already live in. That's why I like it. That's why I think is one of the greatest forms of artistic endeavors ever, especially for Black and Brown people.
So, Nicole, Melissa and I will talk and figure out the best way to do it. Maybe we should have, a little cohort of 3 or 4 of us that work on specifically that urban planning funding element and what to do with non-used space. My friend Mose, who I just spoke to, this dude says he knows a guy up in Syracuse that basically owns 20% of the buildings, and one of them is a 60,000 square foot warehouse that he hasn't been doing anything with. Another is an abandoned train station he hasn't done anything with. And so I was like, can we do a pop up? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna send you video next time I'm there. You'll see what we're talking about.
We can do so many things. We can do, like,
so
the ideas are just turning in my brain like that. We can do so many things with empty spaces and literally make them valuable and then sell it off piecemeal and make money that way.
So
And that's just one idea.
let's definitely, Melissa, can you remind me that we need to brainstorm how that would work? We haven't really had any subcommittees or like kind of smaller groups of folks, but there have been like projects, and on projects then specific people work on them. So it may be a fun project to see. In this chat here, all of us are performers. Like literally everyone here does public performance or some type of art expression. So it's that easy to be able to, well, who would you all feature? Well, Rob has, this whole documentary from when he went to Africa. Like Melissa has literary stuff, Gravity performance, Kirsten performance, Polly visual art, Nicole performance art, Nick music, and whatever else. So like I think that's viable. I just don't know how to do it, and definitely don't have the bandwidth to teach myself right now. And so if that's something that we can collab on, and whoever else would be interested in kind of that element, there's empty space everywhere. Like that's the wildest thing about America. The paradox, again, hyper reality, is space is so expensive because it's limited and there's not enough surplus or inventory. Yet everywhere I go, there's an empty building that no one's doing anything with that's like totally usable. So cool. Any other thoughts before we move on? You're gonna say something, Melissa?
I just like the idea of small cohorts to, plan some of what you just discussed.
Perfect. And all you all have
And I'm happy Nicole's here, and I always want to pick her brain about grants and stuff like that as well.
thanks.
There's a place in California called East Jesus. It's out in the desert. And a guy from I think Boston or Jersey or somewhere bought the land years ago, and he combed all of it with like old mattress spring and found tons of glass and all this stuff. And then he invited artists to come and build using all of the found materials. And it's like a whole sculpture garden that you could visit. And they earn money by having people come and, take pictures, shoot videos, do things at the space. So like there's always those possibilities too of like putting up some temporary walls and, I do Paint Memphis every October, which is a huge mural festival, and it would be, you know, incorporating with like a huge art event in the space to raise money for it. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily that that space has to be that all the time, but utilizing art events to to raise awareness for the whole thing. I love going out there in the desert. It's so cool because it's like they build these, 50-foot bottle walls and all these crazy things just from what everyone considers trash. So like space utilization, when you do get it, from the beginning, even during the cleanup, you could be creating art and, figuring out ways to develop the space while it's being, like we said, like if we're going to be growing stuff, it needs to be treated for a year. But in the meantime, there could be a sculpture garden. People still are getting used to coming to the space. That's going to be a big part of it too.
That's a very good idea. Thank you. Did you say you already go down to Memphis?
Yeah, October, first weekend in October is Paint Memphis. I don't know if I'm going to get there this year. I didn't apply for it this year because I got the baby due like 2 weeks later. So I didn't plan for this year. But yeah, I know of the biggest mural festival in Memphis. I've been doing it for years. So I do have connection to the arts down there a bit.
That is awesome town. And that's good to know because if it does take however much time to get things set up, being able to build and kind of network with folks, but knowing that we already have the property in place allows for a lot more connectivity than just like, yo, well, we plan to in the future. Dope. All right. Well, we have about 10 minutes left. Were there any other things that needed to be touched? Nope. Uh, DC, for anyone who wants to visit, I'm here the next 3 weeks at least, it looks like. From here, we may try to do a road trip down in North Carolina. I got to tell you about that, Melissa. This guy, Mike Hansen, who's originally from South Africa. And when I met him, we were on a trip to the Capitol. We were going to be meeting with some senators and congresspeople. And he was wearing a hip hop. I don't know. I can't explain it. I saw him. I'm like, this dude's hip hop. And he's not racially ambiguous, but his mannerisms are racially ambiguous. So like I was kind of like, what's up with this dude? Well, it turns out he's South African and grew up in a multicultural environment and got into hip hop really young and left South Africa because of the conscription at the time. I don't remember if it was his dad or like someone in his family. It was either get conscripted and fight for apartheid or leave. And so they left. And so he and I had some very interesting conversations and how he looked at the race issue in America, what folks need to do to act right, and the responsibility of the majority group that has benefited from the oppression of other people. And he has a farm where his sticker says graze against the machine. And he's into wild forest foraging for his bulls and cattle, developing and really cultivating the native species. And instead of just like grains and basically processed food for the animals, letting them live amongst the other animals on the farm. So like the goats are out there with the cattle, the pigs are with the chickens. Um, and he does photo and video, does a really good job of capturing it. And so I've been meaning to go visit his farm. And so we may be able to do that because it's a lot closer from DC than if we were trying to get there from upstate. Um, and we may go visit another farm in Virginia. But other than that, we'll be in DC. So if anyone wants to come visit, have a seat in the philosophy garden, help us put together this education center in my mom's house that we're planning to do, you are welcome to visit us at any point. Now, did we just have Paper? Did you just join? That's great. Rob, what were you going to say?
I was gonna ask, so when does upstate New York look like it will be available? And I didn't come to the last meeting. What's the procedure? Because I'm in Canada right now. So when I come back to New York, I actually will be traveling through upstate. So what's the possibility of me spending like a day or two on the land?
The keys are with our neighbor. You would just have to let us know so you can grab the keys. We'd probably ask you to check on some things and make sure the garden's still popping, the animals didn't need everything, that the water is running properly on our sprinkler system. Um, and you would hang out for a day or two and let us know all is good on the home front, and then continue.
Got you. When I leave Canada, I'll contact y'all and see if that's possible. All right.
Yeah, and the other folks, like when we're not up there, if y'all want to get out of New York for 3 or 4 days or 2 or 3 days, like let us know. Like part of when we were raising money to do this was so that there's space for people to get out of the city and decompress and it not be a thing of, oh, we got to pay $130 a night for Airbnb or we got to worry about ratings and if they'll accept us and all the other extra fees and stuff. But to enjoy it and go down to the lake, take the canoe out.
And then after your 3 weeks in DC, what was the schedule for like y'all being back upstate or in between upstate New York? What's the
We're hoping to set up some programming for August and do some events and community gatherings up there. We're definitely looks like working on a camping situation with a conservation organization for their BIPOC community. We are doing hopefully gonna reorient our normal 4th of July to sometime in August because we had to give up that tradition this year. So yeah, we don't have the exact dates yet, but we will be able to update you soon.
And
okay?
I know you wanted to do a workshop. I believe Gravity wanted to do a workshop. So we'll organize the workshops around weekends, most likely. Summer Festival this year is going to be first and second weekend of September. First weekend in New York, second in DC. I'm going to do most of the promotion through July down here, and then probably have to hire people in New York to do the promotion. So that last week of August, probably down in New York, um, in order to get the final in-person promo fully out. But other than that, we're trying. Trying to go hard. Like when we get back up to the land, it's like go time. I already was feeling time constrained and was loving the warm weather, getting out at 7, 8 in the morning, being able to start to do work, and it doesn't get dark till 9 at night. So we're definitely going to be trying to pack in as much as we can. And to follow up on one thing, yo, Paper, you there?
Yo,
So a couple of weeks ago, you had mentioned what we can do to connect with the church community. And so with the properties that we're looking at in Memphis, we're going to try to do partnerships with them, either with the food pantries or if they're church members that have experiences doing gardens and doing community garden spaces, but where you do purposeful outreach to the Black churches that are in the area of the lots that we are purchasing. And if it goes well, then a lot of churches in that area own other properties just as part of their portfolio. I don't really know how that works, but they may also have vacant land that they need people to do things with, and we could do an exchange of sorts. So I was thinking about it like for a while after we talked of how to synergize all of it.
yes, definitely. There's definitely a lot of that, and a lot of these churches are like old and like members are mainly old, so they're like shutting down and stuff post COVID. So yeah, there's definitely stuff there. People who need stuff maintained and all of that. And and Memphis sounds cool, so I'm even less hip to that. So yeah,
Also,
that's
all right. Well, I think we're gonna head out. Any last statements or questions?
Much love, everyone.
All right. Well, you all have fun. We'll see you.
Good to see everybody here tonight.
Thank you, Chris and Melissa. Thank you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Paper, what's good? Hey, Robert.
One love. Hey,
Love you, paper.
thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Christian and Pauline, lovely to meet y'all.
Bye. Yeah, you too.
Bye.
We might have met before.
Oh, you have.
Have
You've
we
met before.
Probably. I can't see you, so
Kirsten,
Oh,
Kirsten
okay.
and Nicole have met for sure.
I gotta change that. Well, that's my daughter's picture, so I can't change it.
It's good to hear your voice, Nicole.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to y'all about performing. I'm down to do it. I gotta email y'all this little slot for me.
It's no problem at all. Life is always lifing, and we're
Yeah,
here.
life is life be lifing. Life be lifing. Woo!
You have your gold teeth in over there, Chris?
No, I have to wait till tomorrow to make sure I wear them to work tomorrow.
Oh,
So,
it looked like they were shining through you. You've got a
Yeah, so you had
shiny teeth tonight.
no, I got my lighting is on crazy mode right now. Don't you know?
Wait, do you have a grill guy? I want to get one.
He's got a
So
grill.
there's a guy down in Miami that I contacted on Instagram, went out to a shop in the middle of nowhere, and I would recommend him, but I also wouldn't recommend him. You know, like
I'm not going to Miami. I'm sure I could do it in New York. Save the
the price though. I mean, I definitely got a good deal, and they've held up for 3-4 years,
price.
and I somehow haven't lost them yet. And I mean, it for me, they do what they're supposed to do. Like I wear them usually at conferences or like at work stuff where I'm presenting, and especially if it's multi-day, I usually do one day wearing them, one day not, and like watch people like trying to, they're like their neck
What's
doesn't look.
different about you?
Yeah, and they're like, especially the second day, they're like, wait, do you have gold teeth yesterday? I'm like, no. And they're like, wait, how do you do that? And it's just so funny. Like, oh, you really know hip hop in your life, huh? But cool.
I don't
Um,
know if I could actually do it or pull it off, but it's like a dream of mine.
I'm gonna say, be prepared for the skepticism and the hate.
Yeah.
But like all things in life,
Actually, you probably could oddly pull it off.
Just wear it with my unsegregation t-shirt every time.
if it's authentic, if someone's like, "Yeah, why you got gold teeth?" It's like, look, Africans been wearing gold for 15,000 years. So you got a problem with that? And they'll look at you like, what the fuck did you say? And you'd be like, yeah, are you hating on Africans being
okay.
metallurgists? I'm celebrating. And they'll have to be like, word, you know the science. All right.
Thank you.
I go with George Washington had slave teeth and what?
I can't say that.
See,
That is a funny one. I love this conversation right now. I'm so happy. I think Kirsten, out of everybody I know, could probably pull it off. But I'm always telling Chris that there's some folks out there doing it that just can't pull it off, and it is bothersome.
Word, you gotta put the force in the and what though?
I like that.
Thank you.
It will never bother you again. They're like, are those gold teeth from people's mouth? Like,
George Washington had slaves. Well, all right. On that note, I'm gonna go have some salad. You all enjoy your night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Gravity.
See you next week.